Okay, so Tuesday, next week, right? You've got a geography test. You have physical features of Europe. Mr. Smithy's coming back. That's coming on your test docket. Physical features, that's mountains, rivers, things like that. So if you don't know what set of mountains separates France and Spain, or what set of mountains goes down the boot of Italy, you need to know those, okay? You need to know what those are. I set it in the geography section for you to go and play 3 games in a row on geography. And I had somebody walk up to me and go, Ms. Hendrickson, all it is the countries again. I told them they didn't read the instructions because it clearly says this side, because there's 3 sides, there's 3 things, right?
Yeah, the capitals.
One has capitals, countries, physical features. I put it there for you, you can do it. Yeah.
Do we have to memorize all the numbers on the game?
The ones on the game, you have to know where they are. Because I bet what he's going to do is give you that same game again, right? And go, I want to see a score.
Oh, man.
I'm betting that's what he's going to do. He may not, though. Mr. Smithy may choose to give you paper. What?
The notes that we took yesterday,
Yeah.
is that printed and engaged?
Yeah. It's in the note thing where you paste your notes. It's in there. Okay, so today we're doing Reformation of the Church. I'm doing the intro. Mr. Smithy will do Henry VIII tomorrow or on Monday. He'll do Henry VIII. And so today I'm just doing the Reformation, the beginning parts, the introduce you to this idea. I've been having trouble typing today too, so you're not alone. All right. So the Reformation. Do you know what that word means? What does that word mean? Reformation. What does it mean?
Change something?
Change something? Change something how?
Reconstruct?
Okay, reconstruct it, but how are we changing it? What are they, if somebody says they're a reformer, what are they trying to do to something?
Control it.
Make it better. They're trying to make it better. These guys are trying to make it better. So the guys in the Reformation, they're not actually out to get the Catholics. They're not out to cause trouble, although we often call them rabble-rousers. They're not out to cause trouble. A lot of times they're actually out to make things better. So anytime somebody says that they're a reformer, maybe they're out to cause trouble, but most of the time these guys are out to just make things better. There are times that they're out to cause trouble. The reformers in New York in the 1800s, they were out to cause trouble. That's what they were there for. They were trying to cause trouble. But, you know, these guys, they're not really trying to cause trouble. So what did they do? They wanted to reform the church. They wanted to reform the church. Why? What was wrong with the church? Anybody got any ideas? Yeah.
It owned all of the political power of Europe at that time. Had quite strict and unbiblical impressions that they tried to force on everybody. It was pretty intolerant and pretty legalistic.
Yeah, and none of those things are going to change anytime quick with that. Reformation, they might have seen some of those things, but one of them that you said, I think they did, but I think it's in a different direction. Go ahead. Some, yeah, and that's going to show up here too. Anything else? So far, I got out of you education and corruption. Johann Sebastian Bach, playing bar tunes in there. Yeah, the secular music in church. You're right. In fact, I got all 3 things out of you. There you go. You know exactly what 3 things we're going to talk about. So all 3 things we've gotten out of you. So secular music in church, like Johann Sebastian Bach playing bar tunes, probably not a good idea. The priest probably didn't like that a whole lot. This is going in your notes. You don't have to copy this part. You can copy the rest of the stuff that you need. All right. So yeah. Sebastian Bach's playing of bar tunes so that people could sing along in church probably was frowned upon. And it probably wasn't the best idea, but hey, everybody could sing along. He wanted people to participate in church. So that's what he did. And then the next one is kind of where Clay was talking about. They wanted to make sure that everybody was educated. During the Middle Ages, priests were not always educated. They weren't always the guy that could read or write. So you might have a priest that had never actually read the Bible, but he's supposed to preach it to you. I'm not sure how that's supposed to work. I'm not even really sure that does work.
And the Lord said that I can do some stuff.
Yeah, I get to make up my own words too. You know, really funny stupidness. The words hocus pocus actually came from the church service. The words hocus pocus in the Middle Ages actually came from the church service.
Why?
Because when they did the changing the wine into the blood, the transfiguration that changed the blood into the blood of Christ, they would do that. They would say in Latin, homines potis. Well, the people that are hearing it in the back of the church, they think they're going hocus pocus, and now it's blood. And so that word literally got changed to hocus pocus, and it came out, and now we go hocus pocus, and you change something, it's magic, right? So I always thought that was an interesting story. I thought that was always funny that hocus pocus came from the church, because they're always very much against magic and things like that. So I thought it was funny that it came from it. But early on, priests not so educated, and they may not be able to read and write at all, like even barely write their name, maybe. And then they're going to teach other people. So let's say that you're the priest and you take her as your apprentice. Well, guess what? You can't read or write. Is she going to be able to read or write? Probably not. And then you can't read the Bible to know the stories, so you're just going to tell her what you think is in there. And then she's going to repeat that out. And you see how this goes. It then becomes that thing like telephone. The stories get changed, and now we're way far away from anything that's in the Bible. So it just kind of goes all haywire. So, and I can understand, these reformers, they wanted the people who were teaching the Bible to actually, have read the Bible. Easy thought, yeah. Yeah, the Bible was fully put together. They put it together with the early on in like the church, right around 1000. They started putting the books together, and they actually vetoed some books and kept others. So there are more books of the Bible that didn't get kept.
And
there
some
are
of those
also,
are still in Catholic and Orthodox Bibles.
They are. And there are some things, there are some other texts that we call like Vardas that are like teachings of the church that didn't get kept at all. So lots of things on angels didn't get kept at all.
And it wasn't one like hour-long process. It took years.
Yeah. It
Hundreds
took
of years.
lots of meetings.
I believe the last book to be approved was also the last book of the Bible, Revelation.
All right, the last thing that's up there is corruption. Corruption. That's what this is. This is a sale of indulgences. Now, okay, I get it. You're going, indulgence, Miss Anderson? That's like chocolate chip cookies. Chocolate chip cookies. Okay, so I totally get that idea of indulgence, chocolate. I get it. I'm thinking chocolate is good right now. But aside from that, so you guys, when we think about indulgence, do you know what the top 3 indulgences for women are?
Yep.
No, it's close. Food, clothing, and makeup.
Shoes.
No,
Of course,
makeup.
makeup.
I guess they put, I don't know if they put shoes with clothing or not. I don't.
Money.
Yeah, I think they put shoes with clothing.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the top 3 indulgences for men. Okay, you ready?
Food.
Beer, gun,
Food,
Our beer. Video games.
Swords.
Girls.
sports is close, sports memorabilia, things that they buy that players have had, and cars. Cars, food, and sports. So it's like, that makes sense. Yeah, see, y'all have got, I'm G-rated. Y'all, I don't know what y'all are doing. I don't know what y'all are doing. I read off the stuff off of, the magazine that I was reading. So I'm like, those are the 3 things that they gave for men and the 3 things they gave for women. So, and they surveyed a whole bunch of people. I don't know how many did. I just thought it was pretty interesting. Indulgences, though, they're the things that we today, we look at it and we go, these are the things I want. Not the things I need, but the things I want, right?
Yep.
Back then, not so much. When we're talking about the sale of indulgences, we're talking about the sale of forgiveness. So the church, okay, so if you're not Catholic, you may not know this, but if you go to church in the Catholic Church, when you do something wrong, you're supposed to go and confess your sin to the priest. You don't do it in front of everybody, it's just you and the priest.
Like in a little box.
In a little box, a confession, yes. Okay, so you confess your sin, and then the priest gives you a punishment for that sin and tells you to go and either pray or do good or give money, you know, whatever it happens to be that you're supposed to do to make that sin better. So that's what's supposed to happen. Well, what was happening in the Renaissance and the Middle Ages is that you would do something bad, and if you're wealthy, you would hand the priest money and you would get out of the sin. You didn't do anything. You didn't even have to feel bad about it. You just had to give them money to get out of the sin. So we're not talking like little sins like I lied to somebody. We're talking big sins. We're talking things like adultery. So, okay, wait.
Cheating.
Yeah, I have a lot of people today who are like, what is that, Miss Henderson? Adultery is if you're married or you're sleeping with somebody that's married. That's adultery. So it's stepping out on your marriage or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, something like that. So cheating. But adultery is a big person word, and so I thought, you don't know that because it's always on TV with the news and stuff. So say you did that. You had an affair with somebody that you weren't supposed to, and you go to the priest and you say, I've done this, and they say, okay, pay me so much money, and then you get out of that. You can, you know, go back to your life and not have to worry about it.
Can you keep committing adultery?
No, supposedly you're not supposed to, but I suppose you could keep paying for the indulgence. But no, it's supposed to like absolve you of the sin, so the sin no longer exists. So you get to go to heaven for free. Yes and no. There's a little bit of it happens every now and again. It's not the same way. It's not like that, but like my grandfather, when he passed away, they were Catholic, and you would give the priest money and the church money, and they would say prayers for you, so you got out of purgatory quicker. So yes and no, not the same way as this. But they're even giving indulgences on things like murder. You can kind of pay enough money, murder. You could get away with, you know, like getting away with murder. They talk about that. They could actually get away with murder if you could pay for it. Or sometimes indulgences were given if you did service for the church. Like you did something particularly good that the Pope liked, even if it was a terrible thing. If you did something good, you could get out of some kind of sin. Like, say you'd been a murderer, you'd been a serial killer, you go on a crusade. You go on a crusade because the church sent you, you go on a crusade and you die. Well, guess what? All of those murders have been forgiven because you went on the crusade for the church. Now, you died in the crusade, but still all those sins were forgiven. So, it's...
So basically, they make it.
Yeah, they would go to heaven even if they murdered all those people because they went on a crusade. So the same thing though is you're going to hand somebody money and pay for some sin. Well, I mean, and they did this a lot. They did it a lot though. I mean, this was pretty common. This is not a big deal. So this is what they wanted to stop though. These reformers wanted to stop or control it a little more. You know, perhaps if you did go on a crusade, then maybe the bad things that you've done could be forgiven. They might go with that, but they really didn't like the thing of hand the priest some money and I get an indulgence. That was not okay. They didn't want to do that. So these are three of the reasons. These are three of the reasons, and there are a whole lot more that are around. There are a whole lot more. Right now, though, I want you to pull up a webpage, and I want you to go look up a guy called Martin Luther. Not Martin Luther King, not a black guy from the South, but a white guy from Germany who's got, half the time he's got a beard, half the time he doesn't.
King?
I know he's engaged, but I want you to know. No, Martin Luther's not a king.
He's a Catholic priest.
He's a Catholic priest, right? Okay, I want you to see something. I want you to see something, not just his image. I want you to see his, like a page where you can read information on him. Because I want to know who Martin Luther is. It does me no good if you just see a picture. I want to know who he is.
German dude.
He's a German guy.
Yeah, he was a reformer.
Born in Germany in 1480.
He's a professor. He made the Lutheran Church.
He's in
Great site document.
Okay, he's in Germany. Okay, so here's what I've got from you. Wait. Here's what I've got from you. He is a German priest who was a professor of what? Does anybody know what he was a professor of?
He writes.
Theology. What's theology again?
Religion.
Religion. So he's a professor of religion for what church?
The
Catholic Church. He's a Catholic monk who teaches other priests, right? He's going to teach other priests to be Catholic monks. And
He opposed syncretism. What is that?
Pietism.
Huh?
In other words, using the Virgin Mary to pretend. Alright, so Martin Luther. He's our next guy on this. Why do you shock me like that? Alright, so Martin Luther started the Lutheran Church. He's a monk from Germany who taught religion to future priests, right? This is what you've given me. He's a monk from Germany who taught religion to future priests.
He's chubby.
He is at some points in his life. Well,
Obese.
some points at this
Today's
point,
Americans.
today at this
He's
point
bald.
you're not, but maybe in the future you might be. So don't make fun of people. You never know.
Okay. Shorty, you might
All
be
right,
small.
so
What did
Germany.
What did I have to do for the one haircut?
That's just the style of mine. All right, so monk. He's a monk from Germany, and he's going to end up doing something he didn't really want to do.
Diet
He
of
didn't
war.
want to start a new church. He did not want to leave the Catholic Church. Martin Luther was not out to start a war, to cause trouble. Well, maybe a little bit of trouble, but not a whole new church. He didn't want to divide the Catholic Church. He wanted to make the Catholic Church better. He wanted to work from within the system.
Problem is, the Catholic Church didn't want to go.
I think the problem is the way he did it. I think that's the problem.
Okay.
So let's talk about it this way. So if y'all have talked to Mr. Rollins, right?
Yeah.
You never talked to Mr. Rollins?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So I've talked to Mr. Rollins plenty of times. So obviously he hired me, right? But if I wanted to tell Mr. Rollins, or if you wanted to tell Mr. Rollins that you see some problems here in the school, what do you think would happen?
You would change it, fix it.
Listen.
He would listen to you. Does he talk to you?
No.
Yes.
No? I think he would talk to you. I think if you walked up and said, Mr. Rollins, these are some problems I see, he'd probably do this. Come on in the office here, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I kind of get that feeling from him. At least that's what he does to me when I've brought problems to him, because I have brought problems to him. Mr. Rollins, we need this. We need to fix this. So I brought those problems to him, and he said that. You know what? His dad's a lot the same way. Dr. Rollins, down at Central Office, if I walked up to him sometime, and I've had him as a college professor, so I know him, and I said, Dr. Rollins, I see these problems in the district. I think we need to fix this. He would probably, tell me to make an appointment, he'd talk to me. He's just that kind of person. His dad and him are a lot alike that way. Although, you might not want to tell Mr. Rollins that. Although this is going on YouTube, so maybe he'll hear it later. But they're a lot alike like that. Now, on the other hand, if I had this big list of problems that I found, and I took it and I taped it on the front door of the Gem Center, these are all the problems at the School of Innovation. Or, even better, I'm going to talk to Dr. Rollins, the head of the Springdale School District here, and I take all of the problems that I see in the district, and I nail it, or glue it, or paste it to the front doors of the administration building. Do you think that's going to go over well?
No.
No,
Oh,
probably
you
not.
did
Do you think, Mr. Rollins, if I laid out all the problems in the School of Innovation for the entire town to see, do you think they're going to be happy with me?
No.
I will not have my job long.
Wait, his dad's the.
Superintendent, yes.
Yeah, I saw myself was.
Now, here's where I think Martin Luther went wrong. If he had taken his problems up the chain of command, right? And I talked to Mr. Rollins, I talked to Dr. Rollins, I talked to other people around, and I tried to change things from within that system. It's slower, but I'm probably going to get the things done like that.
Better.
Martin Luther took those and nailed them to the front door of the church. He took all 95 problems that he found and nailed them to the front of the church for the entire town to see.
Yay.
Can you tell me what you think happened to him?
They kicked him out.
Well, he started the church. They kicked him
Split
out.
the church.
They didn't kill him. They kicked him out. What's that word for kicking out? What do they call it when you kick somebody out of the church? Excommunication. There you go. So they excommunicated him. So he had 95 problems that he and his friends found, and they nailed him to the front door of the church. They nailed it to the front door of the
He is
church.
so smart.
I know, it just, I think if he had just done it a little different,
Yeah.
been a little less of a rebel rouser, he'd have done okay. But, I mean, in the end, he gets thrown out. The poor guy gets thrown out of the church. And because of that, because he's thrown out of the Catholic Church,
He decides to make a dream.
he decides to make his own church, where his ideas, those 95 things that he saw wrong with the Catholic Church, would be fixed. So, what are all the people that followed him called?
Luther.
Members.
Followers.
Friends.
Oh no, Protestants or something.
Yeah, the protesters, the Protestants. So everybody who protested the Catholic Church, they joined part of a group called the Protestants because it has the word protest in it. So the protesters are Protestants. They form another section of Christianity. Here's an interesting thing that I have found. It troubles me greatly that some of you have no idea where you fall. I've got kids that have come and told me, Miss Hendrickson, I'm not Christian, I'm Baptist.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Is it
Or-
Baptist Parkers?
Or, they have the same thing said for Catholic. No, Miss Hendrickson, Catholics aren't Christian.
Yeah, they are.
So I get a little worried about you when you say things like this to me. And I really, at some point, especially when they tell me that the church they go to, I really want to call the minister at that church and go, hey, you need to talk to the kids about this because, I really think I should call them sometimes and be like, hey, this child said this to me. You might ought to fix that because, it's your church. But, so I'm going to spend a second, and not for the point of pushing religion at you, but I would really just like you not to go out and say things like that.
That's
Just because, and part of it is that, I'm supposed to teach some of this anyway. So I have this nifty-nifty little thing here. And so if you want to try and draw one on your screen, you can. Mine's just shapes. I just did shapes. So it made it easy for me. So there's this group called the Christians, right? They're the followers of that guy. Got that? Right? Followers of Christ. All right, so that group is called Christians. Anybody that follows that guy are that group. So if you follow Christ, you're a Christian.
even Baptist.
Even Baptist. You'll let them in too. All right, so I don't know. All right, so Catholics, there are basically two groups of Catholics. You have the Orthodox and the Roman. There is a break, a schism is what we call that, a schism, a break in the church. Schism. Eat that word. Schism is a break in the church, and it was over 3 words in a prayer. They broke. They also decided that they would disagree on something called iconology, but that's not that important right now. So there's a break. There's 2 groups of Catholics. Basically, the only place that you're going to find Orthodox Catholics, little tiny group in Greece, and then Russia. If you're Catholic in Russia, you're probably Orthodox. The rest are probably Roman Catholic. All right, so then we come to this with Martin Luther. Martin Luther makes another giant break in the church, the Christian church. He's going to break and he's going to protest, right? So all the protesters are called what? Protestants. So all of these protesters, and I just pulled out some of the big ones.
What's
Presbyterian? Okay, so Lutheran is the Lutheran church that he started. There's Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, and Church of Christ. There's a guy that was a student of Martin Luther, and his name was John Calvin, and they disagreed over music in church. Okay, they
What kind
disagreed
of
over.
music did Calvin like?
John Calvin didn't want any instruments in church. He just wanted the spoken, like the words to be important. So you would sing all the words. The Church of Christ still follows that today. The Presbyterians, like they actually put the organs back in. Presbyterians use organ music, but you won't find like a rock band in a Presbyterian. What? Yeah, Orthodox, Catholic. So I just picked some big groups up here is all I did. There's a huge set of Protestants. Please believe I did not pick all of them. The U.S. government has registered 25,000 different Protestant churches. So I picked, what, 5? I just picked 5 that I could think of. So there are 25,000 that are registered with the U.S. government. So to give you the idea, So Baptists, you know, these guys here, if you go to one of those churches or whatever one that you go, if you're a follower of Christ, then you kind of understand what that is. Versus my favorite one are the Heaven's Gators. Do you remember them? Like 6 years ago, they all committed suicide because they thought that the end of the world was coming when this comet came by,
Oh, yes.
and they would
Yes, I
ascend
heard
into
about that.
heaven
I heard
because there was a
about that.
spaceship behind this comet, and that they would ascend into heaven and go on this spaceship.
Can't be on
They're Protestant.
What? I'm not gonna.
There's a big group there, so there's a big difference in who's Protestant. So I just want you to understand, I did not pick all of them. I just picked 5 that I can think of off the top of my head.
I'm gonna search that. When I type in search that.
May we add the numbers?
Yeah,
I popped on mine.
Yeah, you can add whatever you need to help you out. I just picked 5 because they were the ones that came off the top of my head.
Right.
But I want you to understand that there are
Oh,
extras.
it's a dry.
All right, so if
No one likes them.
you have any questions, tell me now. Otherwise,
Who's that guy who didn't want music in church?
John Calvin. John Calvin did not believe in having music in church. They actually, well, he did. They just wanted vocal music. And they went through Europe ripping the organs out of the churches. They really did.
So why didn't he like it very much?
He thought that the word was more important than the music, the songs. He thought she
I
lost
go
it.
to a Church of Christ.
What music did he want?
He just wanted vocal music. Vocal music. It's what the Church of Christ does today, I think. At least from what I understand of them.
There was a bad singer. You know that.
So the Presbyterians, the Church of Christ kind of came with Presbyterians that kind of broke off from one another. So the Puritans, just so you know, the Puritans that started the U.S., they were what today we would call basically a Presbyterian. They were Calvinists.